On May 22nd, 2017, a suicide bomber detonated a shrapnel-laden bomb as people were exiting a concert by pop star Ariana Grande. 23 people were killed and over 800 people were injured. This became one of the deadliest terrorist attacks in the UK. Over 3 years later, Yahya Warfali was sentenced to community service for fraud and his connection to the bombing, after it was confirmed that his bank details were used to purchase hydrogen peroxide. This development sparked concerns from the Manchester community, and we asked people who were affected to respond to the news.
And I really think community service is a bit of a slap in the face to people who've lost loved ones. The fact that he's doing this anyway, it kind of is very suspicious as well. And I don't think this is probably the only thing that he's been doing.
It is hard to separate the two. So it's hard to separate the decision that he made and the subsequent fraud from the impacts. But I think that it's important to do that in this case.
Some people believe that the UK is not doing enough and that this sentence was not appropriate due to the magnitude of the crime. It was announced last week that the family of Jack Merritt, a man who was killed by convicted terrorists, is suing the UK government now over alleged failures to manage the attacker in the community. The government has been tracking its counter-terrorism efforts and published its findings to the operation of police powers under the Terrorism Act 2000 and subsequent legislation, arrest outcomes and stop and search. There have been 229 arrests for terrorism-related activity in the year ending June 30th, 2020, which is 47 fewer than the previous year. Of these arrests, only 31% resulted in a charge. While white ethnic appearance makes up the majority of these arrests, the Arabic community suffers the most from the backlash of terrorist attacks.
Muslims are one of the most hated minorities in the U.S. It's just a fact. I would say, yeah, I did see examples of me being mistreated and things like that because of my race and color.
It is no secret that history has shown that Western involvement in the Middle East has normally led to a nationalist response. A study done by Global Policy magazine highlighted the correlation between terrorism and conflict-induced casualties, which begs the question of whether or not we should bear any responsibility for the creation of terrorists.
I think that it would be a logical link to make that the UK's involvement in the Middle East has contributed towards extreme ideologies. I also think, from my point of view, I think that it's another logical link to make is that there is a lot of hostility towards immigration within the UK at the moment.
Yeah, I think it is to blame. I think it's definitely not done enough. And I think it's really done a half approach. It's making sure that people are, that there's community involvement and that, people aren't segregated. And, a lot of people don't feel like the system's working for them. And communities, they think that everything's against them. So I think there needs to be like a dialogue or something, and everything needs to be opened up.
Western failed in understanding Islam and failed in understanding the Middle East. The issue is that Western countries are trying to apply a strategy that they thought is going to work, but there's a lot of mishandling to the way we have been treating the Middle East since 9/11. Whether it's Bush announcing a war on terrorism and invading Iraq after he was not being able to find weapons of mass destruction, or Obama taking the troops out of Iraq without having a stable regime that could handle the region in case extremists come out, which created ISIS eventually. I would say that the issue isn't in the US intervening and in Western countries intervening in the Middle East. The issue is in mishandling how we're intervening with the Middle East. That's the exact issue.
This conversation will continue to develop into whether or not we are able to pursue the safety of our country while balancing an ethical duty to help other areas. We barely brushed the surface of this topic. However, We believe it is imperative for our audience to ask tough questions, criticize the status quo, and debate how we move forward as a developed nation. While we continue to mourn the victims of the Manchester bombing, we must actively seek more solutions to prevent such a tragedy from happening again.